Hello and welcome. Thank you for taking time to learn more about our study. My name is Tiffany Pocock, and I'm the project manager for the environmental study along I-15 between Farmington and Salt Lake City for the Utah Department of Transportation. During my time today, I'll plan to cover 3 broad topics. I'll go through the purpose of the study, I'll review what we know so far about the corridor and what needs to be addressed with any potential transportation improvements. And finally, I'll talk a little about the importance of public input and how members of the public can weigh in on a few important topics. So first, let me give you some background about transportation, UDOT, and how this process of identifying needs and crafting potential solutions works. Working with all the transportation partners across the state, UDOT arrived at 4 key areas where transportation contributes to a high quality of life for Utahns. Our transportation system promotes better mobility by keeping Utahns moving regardless of the type of transportation mode they choose. Moving people includes not just those in cars, but people walking safely on sidewalks, riding bicycles, and using public transit. The system should provide good health for individuals and communities. This includes providing different options to get around, such as walking or biking, and also includes contributing to a better environment overall. We also want a system that better connects communities, helping people move between home and destinations that are important to them, like jobs, education, and recreation. And of course, our transportation system is the backbone of a strong economy, facilitating the movement of goods and services. UDOT's mission is to improve quality of life, and this environmental impact statement aims to find transportation improvements that do that, using the quality of life framework as a strong guide for how we make decisions. This is our study area, starting in the US 89 Interchange in Farmington on the north and running along I-15 down to 4th South in Salt Lake City. As we know you are aware, I-15 serves as the primary north-south transportation corridor in Utah, with most of the Utah population living near the interstate. The I-15 corridor is an important local and regional transportation artery, providing access to commercial and industrial centers, residential areas, and community services and amenities. As such, finding solutions to transportation challenges in this stretch of I-15 is important. For this study, our process is governed by the National Environmental Policy Act, commonly known as NEPA. As you can see on this graphic, NEPA includes a number of steps or phases beginning with understanding the perspectives, needs, and challenges of those using the corridor, and running all the way to identifying and selecting a preferred transportation alternative for implementation. Of course, we didn't just initiate this study out of the blue. A lot of thought and planning precedes every environmental study. Environmental work fits within a process that begins with transportation planning that looks 10, 20, and 30 years into the future to identify needs and potential projects. We then prioritize those potential projects and begin environmental processes, like this one. Following environmental review and clearance, we move to design, construction, and then maintenance and operation of any solutions. As you can see in the chart, we are currently engaged in a process known as scoping, where we analyze the needs of the corridor both through technical analysis and engagement with the public, ultimately arriving at a formal statement of needs and purpose for the study. This is known as the Purpose and Need Statement, and it will guide the way we develop potential solutions. At this stage, we are also asking members of the public to share ideas for solutions and to give us feedback on how we measure potential alternatives as the process continues. After we have a good handle on the needs of the corridor, we'll begin crafting potential solutions. We'll start with a broad set of concepts based on the technical analysis and public feedback. We will then refine the list of options through a process called screening, engage with you again to share the results of that process, and then begin preparation of the draft environmental impact statement. This process includes detailed technical analysis and documentation of impacts, along with potential ways to mitigate any of those impacts. Finally, we will likely select a preferred alternative and invite the public to provide feedback again. While none of the engagement with the public constitutes a vote, we will stay engaged with you and with members of the public throughout this process so the alternatives we develop reflect what you know about the corridor and meets your needs. Should a final alternative be approved, funding would then be finalized and the planning and construction of that approved alternative could begin. Of course, we are not starting from scratch when it comes to what we know about this section of I-15 and the area around it. I'd now like to walk through some data and insights we are already working from. The existing pavement has some sections of asphalt and some sections of concrete. The concrete pavement on I-15 between Farmington and West Bountiful is about 50 years old and needs replacement. Of the 35 existing bridges in the study area, 9 are recommended for full replacement, 1 is recommended for a deck replacement, and 19 are recommended for preservation work by the UDOT Structures Group. Most existing structures do not have enough clearance to accommodate any additional widening of I-15 in areas if needed. There are several areas along the freeway that don't drain properly during major storm events. Many pipes or culverts need to be replaced and upsized to meet current stormwater requirements. Next, anyone who travels in I-15 in this corridor during peak travel times knows that congestion is an issue. Without improvements, congestion will worsen significantly in the coming decades. This increase in travel time happens because we are moving so many more people in 2050 due to Utah's rapid growth. We also know interchanges are a big part of creating better connections and improving safety. We will look at how well the interchange in the study area meet current and future needs for all modes of travel. One example is traffic backing onto I-15 mainline from ramps. Also, we know that when I-15 and its interchanges do not support travel demand, traffic is added to local streets, impacting both the regional and local transportation system, and the safe, comfortable, and efficient travel by other modes. With regards to safety, in response to the crash data you see on the right, there are some design considerations that could reduce the number of crashes in the corridor. Drivers and emergency services use shoulders to get cars fully outside of the travel lane when needed. This study will analyze shoulder width throughout the corridor and identify areas for improvement. Sharp curves limit visibility. A couple examples in the corridor would be the 4th North and 5th West area in Bountiful and the 2500 North area in Salt Lake. In these areas, if you are traveling at full freeway speed and traffic slows unexpectedly, your time to react may be limited as you come around the bend. We will analyze these areas and identify opportunities for improvement. Now, UDOT is in the business of moving people, not just cars. This includes both north and south, along with east and west. It also includes connecting people to trails, sidewalks, and transit stops. Part of doing that better is getting people not just onto I-15, but across it. We want I-15 to be a part of your community, not a barrier for it. So we'll be looking at opportunities to improve connections across the freeway, both at interchanges and between them. As the study began, our team talked with local and state elected officials as well as a number of community members to understand key issues. We also conducted walk audits along the corridor and at interchanges to look closely at issues of safety, access, connectivity, and walking and biking. As we continue our efforts, we want it based solidly on how the corridor functions now and to keep it grounded in work already done to identify needs and craft solutions. In addition to the needs I've just mentioned, as the study moves forward, we'll be analyzing data and input in all of these areas. Feel free to pause the video if you'd like to read through these resource areas. To conclude, I want to walk through some specific areas where we need input from the public and talk about how everyone can engage during a formal comment period that is currently open and runs through May 13th. We're looking for input in 3 primary categories: the draft purpose and need statement, the draft screening criteria we will use to measure alternatives later in the process, and ideas people have to improve travel in the corridor. First, the purpose and need statement. I described earlier why we develop a formal purpose and need statement. It's meant to capture the needs we are trying to address as a study team and the purpose of any potential improvements. This slide and the next 2 slides comprise the current draft purpose and need. Feel free to pause the video here and on the following 2 slides to read through the statements and jot down any thoughts you have. As I mentioned earlier, we are also thinking about how we will measure the various alternatives. We will use a set of metrics, known as screening criteria, to determine which alternatives will move forward in the process and which will be eliminated. This diagram shows the steps in the screening process. The specific metrics can be found on the study website. As you review this process and those metrics, let us know if we are using the right ones, and if there are others we should consider. So, how do you provide input? The best way is to start at our website. Now, through May 13th, you could submit comments a number of ways. Directly on a map, where you can drop a pin where you think there is a need or have an idea for a solution. You can also type out and submit feedback in our comment form. You can also send an email or letter to us at the information listed on the site. And if anyone needs special accommodations to provide comments, please call our team at the number provided. We're asking you to think about how you use the corridor, how you wished it served you better, and what is broken and how you would fix it. Following the scoping phase of the study, we will finalize the purpose and the areas of need for the study. This will be based on the technical data and the public input we receive. We will then begin developing a broad range of transportation concepts, known as alternatives. Next, our team will evaluate each concept against the screening criteria. After the screening process, we'll do detailed analysis of the potential impacts of the remaining alternatives for the draft EIS, and eventually select an alternative that best meets the needs. Throughout the process, we'll continue to keep you updated and invite involvement and comment at the major milestones. The next milestone is alternative development and screening, and we anticipate engaging with you again later this fall to share the results of that process. The study is scheduled to conclude in 2024. Throughout the study, we invite you to get in touch with questions or for more information. You can see our contact information here. Thank you for spending time learning about the study. We look forward to receiving your input.